Hey everybody, it's Jessica DeMassa with WTF Health. What's the future health? I am talking to the who's who of health tech and healthcare innovation. And today we are checking in with our man in Europe to find out what is going on in digital health, health tech, virtual care, telehealth, all the things in Europe because it is that time of year again when you need to figure out how you can get your boss to pay for you to go to Milan for Europe's biggest digital health conference, Frontiers Health. So please join me in welcoming Roberto Ascione. He is the CEO of Healthware Group and the chairman of the Frontiers Health Conference. Roberto, it's been a while.
It has been. Hi, Jessica. Good to
Hi,
see
it's
you
great
again.
to see you. Yeah, great to see you too. So I'm very excited to talk about Frontiers. I will be there co-emceeing with you again this year. We started that last year, so I'm very excited for that. But to get everybody else pumped up and to, maybe give them some reasons why they should get their ticket covered in order to come and check out some of the startups to invest in or some of the other healthcare, technology that's being demoed and developed for Frontiers. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what's going on in Europe right now? Like, catch us up. It's been a while. So, like, what's happening? What are some of the big trends? I mean, when I last spoke to you right after the pandemic, virtual care had kind of taken a foothold across Europe. Lots going on in telehealth. Why don't we start there? I mean, what's the update? Telehealth utilization in Europe still as high as it was during the pandemic, or has it changed?
Great. I mean, the telehealth certainly is key and something that hasn't stopped with pandemic. Clearly, with healthcare opening up more, utilization as of course decreased to some extent in a more kind of balanced way, given of course the physical access is largely restored. But what's very interesting is that the kind of collective proof of concept of using telehealth has stayed there essentially. So is maturing. So a lot of physicians have become more and more used to it and are essentially starting to rethink workflows in light of the option to do certain things remotely. So that's happening in a quite interesting way. Also, the policymakers that rushed to permit telehealth in different ways in different countries have been refining those policies and stabilizing some of them. So today there are several countries where you can have reimbursement codes for telehealth. I would say, interventions. That's also happening. It's not done at all, but it's certainly well developed and trending in the right direction. On that front, some, like, as I said, emergency measures became a bit more thorough and kind of stabilized, which I think it's very good. Scientific societies of doctors are starting to investigate more and starting to conceive how telehealth can become more, I would say, part of the model of care, and therefore, kind of reinforcing also the adoption. Adoption is still, a long way to go, but certainly the trend is not stopping. And lastly, the various recovery funds that differently, but all countries have been deploying out of the EU, all of them have different targets of remotization. This could be 20%, 30%, in certain cases even up to 40%, which is a lot. And so And some of these funds are coming to fruition. It's just at the beginning. It will take an estimated to 4 to 5 years for that to really kind of unfold completely. But all of these are tackling the adoption of telehealth from different angles.
That's super exciting because I think, we in the US look to Europe in a lot of ways because you have such a different healthcare system each country is a little bit different, but the fact that it's a single payer system everywhere is remarkable. So it's nice to see the use case of telehealth prove out there, in addition to how it's being proven out here. I want to also hear a little bit about digital health. Like, what's going on in this arena? I mean, that's something that we over here in the States saw, gain a little bit more notoriety along with telehealth during the pandemic. And in this case, for us, the digital therapeutic side of things, sometimes where they're a little bit more advanced, they've got some sort of FDA approval to them so that they're actually providing a treatment or a therapy. But then, just even some of the regular, digital health applications that are maybe remote patient monitoring type facing, focused on chronic conditions and using like a glucometer to help manage diabetes better. What can you tell us about how digital health is shaping up in Europe, especially now, that virtual care is seeing increased adoption rates? Are you seeing the same kind of follow-on effect for digital health there too?
Yeah, I would largely say so. The COVID acceleration brought telehealth more kind of front and center, but equally digital medicines and digital therapeutics. Of course, being on a global scale relatively less developed, at least for the time being, I would say verticals compared to telehealth, which of course, has been around since much longer. There's certainly a bit more ground to cover, but the notion of digital medicines and having into that or remote patient monitoring, some intelligent aids for notifications and different kind of remote patient management are really for sure less developed and adopted, but certainly well recognized. And also the notion that telehealth can be a way to orchestrate those kind of things is also starting to come to fruition. Certainly there is a lot of awareness around that. And then of course digital therapeutics, as we know, is a little bit of like the forefront, because you move from the digital management to the digital intervention. We are starting to see more initiatives entering what I define as sort of a phase two of the digital therapeutics industry. If phase one was more like the novelty, being like surprised in a positive way about delivering a therapy through a video game, kind of experience. Now this is moving in a much more, I would say, mature, the beginning of a more mature stage. So we start to see the
more
first.
about that, yeah. The phase two of DTX. I love this. Tell me more.
We're starting to see a good assessment of the challenges that sort of phase one posed, and therefore the beginning of the, I would say, ways to address those. As an example, we came to the conclusion, I believe everyone, that clinical evidence is very important. So we are now starting to see the first well-designed, robust RCTs, being, held also in Europe. So, I'm aware, or we as Health were involved in several of those in the beginning phases, but clearly with a much more robust experimental design behind and a more robust population that will go through these trials, which then will lead to kind of bigger evidence. To give a tangible example, we have been heavily involved into a low back pain VR-driven intervention that concluded not only a trial but also resulted into a very nice paper, which was published a couple of weeks ago on the International Journal of Pain. And also they gave the cover to this paper. And this is essentially a clinically validated VR immersive experience that outperforms severe low back pain the standard of care according to the Tampa scale and all the other kind of pain scales. So it's quite interesting, elegantly designed study, and we see several DTX products entering this kind of level of validation. So I think that's interesting. Then, of course, there's the other part of the equation, which is how to bring this in the hands of patients, aka how to pay for them. And here you can see, besides Germany, that, as we all know, has a model in place, which now is in a, a bit more, I would say, it has been running for about 3 years.
Yeah, I think so.
So we have some learnings there, and we are using Germany as a, I would say, experiment to learn what needs to be done better once you have the framework in place to then really drive adoption, right?
Yeah.
So clearly there is a gap in medical education. So we are super active into educating physicians to these new options, which to all intents and purposes are like new class of, I would say, drugs. When you introduce a complete new mode of action, you need to train about it. This is that on steroids, because it's like a complete new way of, treating patients. So that surely is important. Awareness among patients is also very important, because again, this is very new. So Germany, that has a framework, it's much more about that. Other countries are in the process of establishing a framework, but meanwhile, you can still work in these countries through bringing the evidence and the health economics, I would say, improvements in a way that this is, I would say, understandable by the local authorities. And we have examples in the UK, in France. Soonish, I think we will have also something in Spain and Italy. So it's evolving. And as a good example of something going on in the country, in the region, there is a lot more attention by almost every government that I'm aware of about this field. And in fact, with the Digital Therapeutics Alliance, as you probably know, we are, and together with others, co-leading this European coalition to inform as unified as possible policy around DTX in Europe, inspired by the German model. And this is something that is getting a lot of traction. We're discussing with the multiple ministries of health in the various countries. And compared to a few years ago, there's a very active participation, a lot of interest. Many of them will be at Frontiers in Milan, where the coalition will gather a meeting, face to face. So all this to say, different countries are certainly working on the digital therapeutics issues. They are in different places, but the trajectory is leading to, in not too distant future, a pretty interesting marketplace across the region, I think.
I think that sounds so exciting. I'm going to have to get some coverage of this coalition meeting so that we can find out what's going on live from the scene. But I think that that's a really interesting point, that what this is doing is helping create the European market for digital therapeutics or other digital health interventions that might want to go maybe from the US into Europe. It makes it a little bit more attractive, because that's always one of the things is that, when you're in the US, there's just so much market size here. It's hard to think about going over, even though the fact that your intervention might be wanted, might be paid for, might have all of the reasons to go, but there's a little bit of a hesitation perhaps because of not knowing the different healthcare systems and how they're all going to react and what their policy is around digital health. So that's very exciting. I think this is a natural, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that there's also the flip side of that. To an extent, I heard founders over the years looking at US as the kind of the sole option, but clearly moving from a European country to the US requires, a very significant amount of funding and or a different, approach to the market, which is a big one, but is also equally challenging. So I think this more clarity and generally speaking, interest around the digital health, digital medicine, and digital therapeutics interventions in Europe it's also allowing European founders and European companies to thrive in their home markets first before maybe jumping the pond and accessing the US. So I think it's a healthy dynamic on both sides, which I think it's necessary.
I love that. This is like always one of the undercurrents at Frontiers Health for me is that whole like the back and forth import export of digital health or health technology or virtual care, as we see it from Europe to the US and back and forth again. And this is actually a perfect segue into, the investment market for digital health and health tech. I want to hear what's going on in Europe. I'm sure you guys have seen all the news coming out of the US about what's going on here in terms of digital health funding. We're entering kind of like I'm not going to say bubble because it's not a bubble, but things are correcting for sure. And so valuations are starting to become a little bit more normal, not the same inflated prices that we were seeing during the pandemic. And investment there's still big deals, but there are not as many big deals as there have been the past 2 years. And the deal size has gotten smaller. Are you guys seeing the same things in Europe right now? Like what's going on from an investment standpoint there?
I think there's a little bit of a comparable dynamic, meaning that generally speaking, and then I'll get back to the amount of money that is being deployed. I think the money are there.
Yeah.
There are money that have been raised and will need to be deployed within a certain amount of time. What I think, what I'm observing is the market has become more selective. Mm-hmm. So kind of connected with what we were saying before, more attention to the clinical evidence, more attention to the early traction, more attention in general to the science behind certain kind of solutions. Certainly, there's a increased, which I think is a good thing, attention to understand the product market fit. When I mean market, I mean the unmet need for the patients, which I think is good because I think we need to see less solutions or technologies in search of a problem to solve and more problems being solved by a certain solution. So I think all in all is healthy. On a general level. Then, when it comes to the valuation and that, I think there's a certain level of correction, which I think is not necessarily too bad. Clearly, for those entering new, it's okay. For those that are coming from very high valuation, that's something that requires a bit more of thought process and how to navigate through that. But I think the healthy companies are, doing a good job with that in general. As about the bubble, I don't think this is for sure, any kind of bubble. If you look at the sites of healthcare and the amount of investments, to me, is even underinvested still. Compared to what needs to be transformed. I think it's just there are certain dynamics which are certainly influenced by the sentiment. And honestly, that's no surprise. We have a perfect storm, sadly, around us. So we need to navigate through it. But in 5 to 10 years from now, this will very much look like 2002, 2003, I guess. And so I think we just need to, kind of hold strong through this phase. There will be some dynamics. I can see large-scale private equity probably acquiring companies and delisting companies that are trading at a market cap below the revenues. That might be a pretty straightforward move in presence of good teams and good assets. But that's okay because they will then come back later, probably reinforced and on a bigger scale. This for more mature markets like US. In Europe, I think we are like a step behind. We didn't have the big, IPOs that, of course, you guys had in the States. So I think we will probably more organically navigate through this phase rather than in US, which I probably will see a bit more changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible the dichotomy of that. And you've always said that. I mean, I've been involved, I've known you and I've been involved with Frontiers Health since the very beginning. So what are we on now? You're 6 or you're 7, right? One of the two, 6 or 7, not 8.
7 full and 8 with the test.
Oh my God. Okay. No,
Year.
but yeah, and you've always said that is that Europe is just like a step behind. So it's like an interesting theme that just continues to repeat itself. So, all right. So Frontiers number 7 with an asterisk 8, really. So let's talk about that. So we're back on site in Milan. Thank you again for inviting me, for letting me join you on stage to co-MC the event. I'm so excited. Give everybody a sense of what they can expect. I should say, for those who are keeping track at home and are like, what is this? It's October 20th and 21st. So coming up, but not too far ahead that you can't still make it. So give this a look and think about joining us. But Roberto, tell us a little bit about the conference, some changes this year, other than like the longer lunch because everybody gets talking, but some of the big themes that are going to be addressed. This is something new.
So, but let me start with the lunch. We went back
the most important part, the networking.
Yeah, because we, following a lot of requests, we went back to the 2 hours networking launch break that we started with years ago in Berlin. So that has been brought back, and there will be the networking aperitivo. We have been told it's in Milan. Why don't you call aperitivo rather than aperitif at the end of the day for 2 hours? So it will be 4 hours of protected networking.
Protected networking. Yeah, because you know what? You have a bunch of people who are very chatty.
And then there will be, and then the other change is that this year, day 1 will be full plenary, and day 2 will be all about breakouts, which probably will coordinate things a bit better. The conference is back to the 600 people in presence, capped, awesome. But still will be hybrid, so will be able to be attended also in distance. Most of the speakers will be in presence, with very, very few exceptions, which is great. And then there will be a lot of interesting topics, I would say, or themes that will be, kind of discussed at Frontier. So first, what we discussed about DTX will be largely, I would say, expanded during the conference. So clinical trial sufficiency, path to market, scalability, European or global actually market access, all of that. There will be keynotes, there will be master classes. So anyone in the DTX space, founder side, investors, or pharma companies, I think there will be a lot there.
Good.
There are over 100 investors already, present. So plenty of them to kind of connect with, from the seed stage to very late stage.
I always encourage investors to look at Frontiers Health because I do think that this is a way to get out of the US pack of sharks and kind of swim into some blue waters for a second and take a look and see what's coming out down the pike in Europe. No, I always do. I think it's a very interesting one for investors. Sorry, I have to chime in there.
Yeah, sure. And so those are, pretty cool things, but there are several other things that I want to highlight. We will pay a lot of attention to global digital health, or One Digital Health. So, as One Health really deals with global population health issues, right? This year we will have several moments where we will reflect on the probably biggest goal that digital health has, which is making care accessible and affordable on a global level. And we will have lots of key and cool moments with people that are doing this on the ground. They will speak about that there. And so we will investigate how looks virtual care in Pakistan, or what's a sensible approach to remote patient monitoring in India, or what about Africa for certain kind of interventions in the DTX space. So all of that will be organically part of the program, which I think it's very exciting, and something very close to my heart and the others on the steering committee. So we'll really make it happen in a very nice way. And also there's something that's completely new to Frontiers that I want to call out because I think it's very interesting. We will have an entire track called Frontiers Health Science, which will investigate the crossroads between biology and advanced digital technologies. Things like, AI in drug design and discovery, physics, advanced physics combined with data, advancement in immunome and cell therapy, again through the lens of digital integration. So we'll try to blend the digital side, the data side, the AI side of the equation with the more, I would say, genomics, immunomics, side of the drug discovery and generally medicine. So precision medicine and all of that. So you'll find a lot of new content around that space and startups as well. This will probably, I'm very curious to see how that will unfold, but the program looks quite exciting in that space.
I'm excited for that. And I'm also excited about the massive startup demo thing that's happening. I heard like an outrageous number of startups are participating. Did you hear that number?
Yeah, there are like around the conference, there will be over 150, and they will be on stage in all the different sessions, over 40 of them.
Crazy. I'm like, this is awesome. It's such a great opportunity to see some new companies that are going to be demoing some really exciting things. So that's going to be awesome. Thank you. Well, I am like pumped. And so I guess, there's, unless you have anything else that you want to add, I'd like to just give the conference website so people know where to go to register.
Sure. I just want to say that I'm super happy that you will MC with me again this year.
Thank you.
At year 2, it starts to become a tradition. So better you watch that space for the future. But, I'm super excited that you're coming over and will be fun to do this together.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited. And look at the give and take. It's like we're finishing each other's sentences. See? I love it. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to see you. You guys, the next time you see Roberto, it'll probably be alongside me at the Frontiers Health, and we'll be co-emceeing. You can join virtually if you can't get over to Milan. If you can talk somebody into getting you to Milan, great, even better. Make sure you say hi to us. To find out all the registration information, check out the agenda and all the other stuff, head on over to their website. It's frontiers.health. Roberto, thank you for the update on what's going on in Europe. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, October 20th and 21st, to be precise. But until then, take care. Good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me, and can't wait to see you in Milan.
All right, see you soon. For those of you who are looking for more conversations with the who's who of health tech as they're changing the way that we do healthcare, head on over to my site. It's youtube.com/WTF Health. I'll talk to you guys real soon. Roberto, I'll see you in Italy. Ciao.
Bye.